All right, everyone, buckle up because today we're diving into a listener request, and it's a big one. We're talking about the Black Death.
Oh, yeah, the Black Death. Always a fascinating, if somewhat grim topic.
It is. It's one of those things where, everybody kind of knows the basics, right?
Yeah.
Europe, the 1300s, plague, millions dead, end of story. But this YouTube video that a listener sent over, Black Death, so bad, the whole truth, from a channel called History in 60 Seconds. It really made me think twice about some things.
Really? How so?
Well, I mean, it doesn't sugarcoat anything. It's still every bit as horrifying as you imagine,
Right.
but they also kind of hint at the fact that there might be more to the story. And that's what we're going to dig into today.
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
So, where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, I think we have to start with, rats.
Of course, the rats. Can't have a good Black Death conversation without those guys.
They're everywhere in this video, scurrying through, medieval streets, hitching rides on ships. It's almost comical, in a dark kind of way, but
Yeah.
it's such a powerful visual, and it really gets across how quickly this plague, which, originated all the way over in Asia, spread through these trade routes. It reached Europe around 1347.
Yeah, and it just goes to show, even back then, how interconnected everything was.
Right, exactly. And it's not just interconnectedness in like a positive way like we think of it today.
Right.
Like this was interconnectedness with some pretty dire consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, you can't talk about the Black Death without talking about the symptoms. And this video, let me tell you, it does not hold back. Headaches, fever, and then these awful black lumps forming on people's skin called buboes. I mean, that's where the name Black Death even comes from. And it's such a powerful image.
Yeah, it really gives you a sense of the horror of what people were going through.
Right. And everyone was desperate, doing whatever they could to survive.
Yeah.
This video talks about, people praying, people trying crazy remedies, people fleeing to the mountains because they thought they could outrun it.
Wow.
And of course, none of it really worked.
Right.
But, it makes you think, what happens to an entire society when something like this hits? Something that they don't understand and they can't control.
It's a question that I think has echoed throughout history, And in this case, the consequences were, they were almost unfathomable. The video talks about 25 million dead in Europe alone. That's a third of the population. It's almost impossible to even imagine a loss of life on that scale.
Yeah. It's hard to even wrap your head around what that would even mean.
Yeah.
It's like a statistic, but
Right. It's one thing to hear the numbers.
yes.
But this video actually does a good job at, bringing it down to a human level. They talk about abandoned villages. They talk about the economy being in shambles. Really gives you a sense of how devastating this was, not just for individuals, but for civilization itself.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. The video doesn't just end on this really depressing note. It uses this phrase, and I think this is what you were picking up on earlier. It says, not everything was darkness.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like they're acknowledging the horror, but they're also saying, hey, wait a minute. There's more to this story. Look closer.
Yeah. And what do they suggest that more might be?
Well, the video argues that as horrific as it was, this period of unimaginable hardship, it forced the survivors to adapt. They had to.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, it actually led to advancements. They talk about advancements in medicine, changes in the way society was structured. It's kind of like out of this incredibly dark time came some, well, maybe not positive, but some different ways of thinking and doing things.
That's a really interesting point. I think when we focus on the devastation, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that, people are incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
And even in the darkest of times, there's this amazing ability to find ways to rebuild, to find ways to even thrive afterwards.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So, it begs the question, right? If we were to apply that to today, what would be our not everything was darkness moment?
It's kind of a chilling thought, but an important one.
Right. It makes you really think about what we can learn from history even, or maybe especially the darkest parts.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this has been quite a deep dive and a really fascinating one. Thanks to our listener for sending in this video. It really goes to show there's always more to uncover, even in the most well-known historical events.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll keep bringing you these deep dives.